What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be talking about one of my old favorites, Florges. I could not wait until we got to this one. I knew at some point this Pokemon was going to be used within VGC, even if it's just within a niche role, and I was waiting to see if it can get any like notable tournament results or even like placement within a regional, and lo and behold, it got that. So now we can finally feature it on the channel a little bit, or rather spotlight it, I should say. So Florges has a couple of uses, and you know, some of them are very, very niche. Actually, both uses are very, very niche. But on the right team, it can actually do something, surprise the opponent, and still do relatively well, you know, given the circumstances. Now, what we're going to do first is actually look at its stats and look at its potential move coverage, because it actually offers quite a bit of tools. And I think it's been a little bit overlooked. Okay, but that being said, I'm not saying this Pokemon is like anything like groundbreaking or meta breaking or anything like that, but it does have a use somewhere, and a couple of people have made that use, which is also why we're featuring it today. So basically, just to go through the stats a little bit, again, if you look at its bulk, there's one of the bulk stats that are very impressive, which is special defense of base 154. Think of like something like Goodra. Remember Goodra, you know, pseudo legendary monotype, base 150 special defense, but now you look at Florges and it's got 154, so it's even higher than Goodra, right? I remember when I was like playing, you know, Pokemon X and Y back in the day, and I thought this was like the best Pokemon ever, especially with the release of like fairy types. So, you know, 154 special defense and then 112 special attack is actually pretty solid. It's not like super amazing, but it's still pretty good. Triple digits is always respectable. The defense is not so great, of course, but then the HP also is not so great, but it's not like terrible, right? It's still like above average, and the speed stat of like 75 makes it so that, you know, it's not like, it's like within that awkward speed tier, which is one of its issues, I would say, is like, you know, it's not that fast, but it's too fast for Trick Room, right? So there's that, you know, hindering it a little bit. But in terms of like the fairy typing, it's actually pretty good right now. So, you know, if you consider things like Roaring Moon, for example, you know, it's 4 times weak to fairy types. So you have the advantage there. If you consider like other things that are weak to fairy, for example, like the Iron Hands, okay? Of course, the Iron Hands, and then even like the Great Tusk. These are 2 more Pokemon, along with the Roaring Moon, that are weak to fairy coverage, which is why the Flutter Mane does really well against it, because first of all, both of these Pokemon in the Iron Hands and Great Tusk, they don't do well in the special defense department. So you're able to do a lot of damage against them, which is, I'm sure, the players that we're going to showcase a little bit later in the video have done well against, if they did use Florges in that way, right? But these Pokemon, you know, they don't really do well against Florges. And then even the Roaring Moon, again, these Pokemon have to Tera if they want to withstand the wrath of Florges, okay? So that's one thing. And then if you consider like other special attackers that are running around, for example, maybe even, you know, a Goldango or a King Gambit, for example. Like Goldango, even though a steel type attack is very strong against Florges, because you have all this special defense, you can actually tank that damage relatively well. If you just go like a super bulky build, like something like this, for example. Let's do like a modest spread here. Let's go like maybe right here within like the first EV benchmark, or maybe even like right here after like another 80 EVs, and then just go like max HP like this. 1 point in special defense. You know, you don't really need all that speed, maybe just like a tiny bit, maybe just up to like 104. So this way under Tailwind, you can outspeed everything like the Iron Bundle, for example, and then just dump the rest in defense like this. Like this is just some quick sample EV spread that I would do with Florges. All right, and then the item we'll talk about in a second, but you can see like it's relatively bulky now, okay? And then you don't really need special defense bulk. Like you already have enough. 175 stat and special defense is very, very good. Okay, so you have that going for it. So you got that niche, right? You got that niche. And then there are just other things like that are just running around that, you know, don't want to have to deal with Florges. Like other Dragon types, like a Dragonite, for example, doesn't want to have to deal with Florges. Garchomps that are rising a little bit, they don't want to have to deal with Florges, okay? You need to like respect it. Even the Indeedee Armor stuff is going to have trouble against Florges. Among Us stuff is going to have trouble with Florges because, you know, of this ability that we're going to talk about in a second, right? So the Florges has a good matchup here. So in terms of like base stat and, you know, in terms of the bulk, it does relatively well. So now what we're going to do is also discuss some of its coverage moves. So of course it's going to get Moonblast, right? Moonblast is good. Then it gets some other cool check moves. Like it gets Chilling Water. Okay, and then if you go like, for example, Tera Water, okay, it's not going to go, I'm not saying you can do Tera Water, You know, other players have been doing different things. But if you go like Tera Water, Chilling Water, first of all, you're going to resist the steel damage anyway. So that's already one thing going for it. And then all of a sudden now you can start neutering attack damage, right? So you become like a pretty active form of Intimidate. And it's a special attack, so it's going to do a considerable amount of damage. So that's one cool tech move. It also gets like Pollen Puff, right? Which is great because not only can you heal your ally, but with this special attack stat, you know, unlike Amoonguss, which doesn't have a great special attack stat, now the Pollen Puff can also actually be used to heal. So that's also really, really good in itself as well. All right, and then you can even just round out this last level with Protect. You can even do like a Calm Mindset, but I don't think that's really needed. And then if you just go down this list, you even get like Energy Ball for grass coverage, which is really, really nice. You get Helping Hand. You get Light Screen. Dude, this thing gets Light Screen. Does it get Reflect? Oh, wow. Wait, it didn't even get Reflect. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you get Light Screen. What else do you get in terms of like coverage here? Stored Power is something interesting, but I don't think that's really needed. You get Wish. Okay, that's cool. Oh, Charm. Ooh, well... But you know, it's good like on a fast Pokemon. So Charm is interesting in itself, but it also gets Rain Dance. That's also it gets the you know, the weather moves, but that's not really all that great on looking at it. Lowers attack and special attack by 1. All right, so these are like the main coverage moves that I've seen that were like successful on Florges, and then I guess in this last slot you can just run Protect, but this is like a typical set. And then in terms of like the ability, both of them are actually useful and have been used to top cut some certain tournaments. All right, so now what we're going to do is we'll look at some results that we're using Florges and talk about them a little bit, and then maybe we might even do like a quick soft team building where we can even consider using Florges ourselves. All right, so let's take a look. Okay, so this is one of the tournament results that I want to look at. So if you look at third place from Cara de Mono, they have a Florges 6-1 record. Really, really nice. Australia. Okay, Australia. And then over here, you can see the Florges here on their team with the Great Tusk, the Mousehold, King Gambit, and Arcanine. And then there's a Gastrodon here, for example, right? This is actually pretty interesting. But, you know, first of all, this is Stockpile Gastrodon. I have not seen that. But this is really, really interesting in the Florges usage. So Symbiosis, with this ability, if you look it up on Showdown, if you don't know what it does, basically... if an ally uses its item, the Pokemon gives its item to an ally immediately, right? So if you consider what is going on over here, if they use a berry, for example, like what this has here, like the Arcanine and the Gastrodon, if they use that berry, all right, then the Florges can give its item to its partner Pokemon. So in this case, there's an Aguava berry. So that's actually very, very interesting. I was thinking of something else with Symbiosis, right? Because I remember this was also used like on some other teams. But the idea that I was considering was like, if you, for example, had a Roaring Moon, okay, or even like an Iron Bundle, or even like a Flutter Mane, for example, and then if any of these Pokemon have, for example, like a Booster Energy, okay, you instantly like use that, and then once that item gets consumed, as per Symbiosis, you know, once you use that item, now Florges gets to give its item to its ally. So I was thinking of passing over something like a Life Orb. Okay, that's one use of Symbiosis over here. So like once these booster energies are used up on these 3 Pokemon, as an example, okay, now you can pass over a Life Orb onto these Pokemon. So now they can either do more damage if they were already getting a special attack boost, or if they were getting a speed boost originally, now they're fast, but then you pass over the Life Orb, and now your partner Pokemon is also dealing damage. So like, for example, Roaring Moon, that goes for like a typical Jolly set, you know, with something like this where it's 252 Jolly, okay, and then just a little bit of attack, you know, just so that it doesn't surpass, this much, so it doesn't surpass the speed. But now this is a speed boost, right, with a booster energy, but then you consume it, and then the problem with speed boosting Jolly Roaring Moon is that it kind of lacked damage a little bit. 187 is a pretty nice attack stat, but plus Adamant was good. But the problem with Adamant was you were slower, and that was a problem sometimes. So now what you can do is you can afford to go Jolly again, be fast, get that speed boost, and then pass over the Life Orb, and now you can compensate the fact that you don't get the Adamant plus attack boost anymore with the booster engine. Now you have the Life Orb to help you compensate. That's what I envisioned when I saw Florges. Same idea with the Iron Bundles and the Flutter Manes, right? So, you know, if any of them are speed natured, they consume the booster. Now you pass over the Life Orb, but now they're just going to do like extra damage, okay? As an example. But this is another way that you can use it. So in terms of like the berry usage, where like if a Pokemon consumes a berry, I guess now you can pass on something else that you have on to them, right? So this is an interesting way of using it. But I also thought like passing over a life orb or some other item would have been the case there. But I'm sure they thought it through and they said the berry is better. All right, so I'm not going to disagree with the player, of course. Now, the other ability, which is called Flower Veil, was also used in a more recent tour, and we're going to take a look at that. So let's have a peek over there. Oh, by the way, before we even take a peek at that, I just also want to mention that this was also used in the Perth regionals, right? So this was within the top cut, and I believe it's almost a very, very similar team, almost exactly the same. Right here from Diego, you know, from the recent Perth regionals over the past weekend. So same idea, same kind of concept. The only difference, I believe, was the Great Tusk had a Choice Scarf, right, rather than a Rosalie Berry, right? This was the only main difference, but I believe everything else was pretty much the same. But so it's pretty much the same result, so I can't argue. It did really, really well. Good use of the Florges, good use of the team, really cool team, by the way, especially with this Gastrodon set. It's actually very interesting. Maybe this Gastrodon might be featured on Road to Rank from Aaron Zhang. You never know, because it's got some pretty cool Pokemon on it. So there's that. And now, you know, again, congrats to both players. Now we'll see a more recent usage of the other ability, Flower Veil. Okay, so now if we look at the tour last night from the, I believe, yeah, it was the Deagle Beagle battles. And in first place was Pikachunaru's team, which also features a Florges. But this time it is Flower Veil. So if you don't know what Flower Veil does, basically, again, if you have grass type Pokemon on the other side on your team, they can't have their stats lowered, or they can't have their status afflicted. So no burns, no paras, intimidates are not going to work. So if you can Tera into a grass type, for example, that's good for you, because now you can't get your stat shot, you can't get any kind of status afflicted, right? So if we take a look at Pikachunaru's team, okay, so we got Armarouge here with Tera Grass, okay? So right away I'm thinking, if this thing goes Tera Grass, what's one way to stop Indeedee Armarouge? You lead your Arcanine. What is the Arcanine going to be clicking 99% of the time against Indeedee Armarouge teams that want to go for Trick Room? They're going to be clicking Snarl. Why are they clicking Snarl? Because the turn that you take to set up Trick Room, they're going to say, go ahead and set up your Trick Room. You're not going to do any damage in your Trick Room because I'm clicking Snarl. Your special attack damage is reduced, okay? That being said, now you have Florges, and now all of a sudden, that Arcanine plan with the Snarl, that's out the window because you have Flower Veil. So I'm sure that's what happened here, okay? And then, is there anything else? All right, so now even the Amoonguss, I guess, well, oh, this is a effect Spore. That's also, that might have been an error over there. I think they probably forgot to change it, but that besides the point. You know, even something like an Amoonguss can't get status afflicted. I don't know how many people are going to be burning or paralyzing an Amoonguss, but that's an idea there. I'm surprised the Iron Hands isn't Tera Grass over here. I would have just did, you know, whatchamacallit, Tera Grass, and then something like another, maybe even like an Assault Vest. So this way you can protect the Iron Hands from getting intimidated or getting burned or getting slept in Trick Room, for example. So I was surprised to see the Terrifier here. I thought you might as well just capitalize on the grass type and then just make even more use of your Florges. But I'm sure they thought about it, and I'm sure they said, okay, yeah, Terrifier is still the better way to go because you can't get burned anyway. And I guess the fire option is a little bit better in certain circumstances, right? So ideally, that being said, cool team. It pretty much plays as straightforward as a hard Trick Room team. You know, you got Indeedee Armarouge with the Amoonguss Iron Hands, Kingambit Core in the back. You know, very, very slow team. There's no kind of tailwind over here. It's just like pure Trick Room. And then the Florges is more or less like a support option with, again, Moonblast, Chilling Water. This is Giga Drain and Psychic. Oh, this is an Assault Vest Florges. Okay, now that's interesting. You know, I guess you're even more bulkier now than normal. So, you know, again, really cool use of the Florges. And again, the fact that it even got first place is also really, really nice. So shout outs again to Pikachunaru. Another creative use for Florges. So makes a lot of sense in terms of like what you can do and protect your allies. So both abilities are viable for Florges. Very niche, not necessarily meta groundbreaking, but has its use depending on how you want to play the Florges. It's way bulkier than the Flutter Mane, that's for sure. Okay, and you know, you are slower, of course, but at the very least, the bulk can pay off in the long run. And you have some nice coverage moves, like Chilling Water and Pollen Puff are actually kind of interesting, along with, of course, the Moonblast, and then the ability with, like, passing over a Life Orb onto a partner. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just quickly, just build a straightforward squad that can make use of Florges and maybe one of its abilities. All right, so back to this. Here's what I'm thinking. We're gonna go with the Symbiosis ability on this quick team build, right? So I like the move coverage that it gets here. Moonblast, Chilling Water, Pollen Puff. This is a pretty good coverage here. I know some other moves here, like within the Perth regionals, there was like Energy Ball, Safeguard, and Skill Swap. Really cool abilities. I'm sorry, skill moves. All right, especially Safeguard. You get to protect your allies from status. I like that a lot. Okay, and even like Florges, by the way, it's pretty good switching into Dondozo stuff. Like they can't click order up if you can time that perfectly. So that's one reason, again, where you could do that. And then Chilling Water, you can just like reduce its attack damage, especially on that turn. It's really nice tech move. But anyway, I'm thinking something like this. Something very straightforward and simple. Roaring Moon, okay, then you have Arcanine, then you have the Among Us, right? So this is like your defensive backbone. Okay, with Regenerator, not Effect Spore. And then from here, I'm thinking something like Iron Bundle, okay, for a little bit of speed control. And then over here, you can either go a couple routes. You can go King Gambit with the Assault Vest, which is nice against like the Trick Room stuff with the ANDD Arm Rouge, or you can even do like Iron Hands. I think both are like relatively good, just depending on how you want to play this. But either way, they're both getting the Assault Vest. But I'm thinking of something like this, right? So here we go. Roaring Moon. We'll keep the Jolly set because, again, we're trying to capitalize off the fact that we're going to get a speed boost and we're going to pass off this Life Orb. But pretty straightforward here with Acrobatics. Okay, Throat Chop. I do like Tailwind here, okay, on this type of team. So I think it makes a little bit of sense to go for Tailwind, especially if you can, like, outspeed the opponent. If you want, you can even, like, go Dragon Dance and just rely on like potential setup plays like Fake Out with Dragon Dance on Roaring Moon, right? If you had Dragon Dance, this is also pretty cool because then you're gonna get the Life Orb and you're gonna get a speed boost, a +2 speed boost because of the Jolly nature, and then you get the Life Orb. That's actually gonna be very punishing when you think about it. But if you want to go a different route other than Dragon Dance, you could definitely go for Tailwind over here. I think either way is fine. It just depends on you as a player. But the Arcanine over here, I think Flare Blitz makes a lot of sense. Of course, we're going to go with a typical set here with Snarl, Will-O-Wisp, and then Protect. Now, this is not the only set that you can do. Of course, this is going to be Safety Goggles, by the way. What you can also do, if you want to be a little bit more cheeky, is to go with Flare Blitz, Snarl, and Extreme Speed. Okay, or you can do Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, and Extreme Speed. Either way, any of these combinations are going to work, but it's up to you. But I do think you need one over the other, and if you do want to put Extreme Speed, definitely go for that. But either way, the Arcanine set makes a lot of sense, depending on what you want to do. I'll keep it like this for now. So we have Intimidate, we have Chilling Water. Okay, we'll put Snarl. Okay, I think Snarl is fine. Put Snarl. All right, Among Us, again, relatively straightforward here. Again, Tera Dark for like the psychic stuff. Something like a Mental Herb, so you don't get taunted. Rage Powder, Spore, Clear Smog, and then another Pollen Puff. Okay, Iron Bundle. So if this is getting boost energy, you can get a Focus Sash over here. It's still totally fine. And then pretty standard set with Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, Icy Wind, Speed Control Move, and then Protect. Assault Vest, Iron Hands, Fake Out, Wild Charge, Drain Punch, and then Volt Switch, Pivot Move. Very straightforward. Okay, and then over here, in terms of like EV spreads, I've shown this spread a billion times, but the idea here is, you're able to take a Choice Specs Moonblast from a what is that thing called? A Flutter Mane. So it was just 108 investment with this much HP investment, 239, which is AK 76 investment. You go up to the third benchmark in the attack stat. See how it goes from 207 to 209. You increase by 2 stat points. This is the third benchmark. It increases by 80 EVs every time you invest it. This is where you'll see the bump. I mention it all the time in all the team building videos, so take a look at that. And then with this investment in defense, after an Intimidate from an Arcanine, you can also take a Headlong charge from a Great Test. All right. The Iron Bundle, pretty straightforward. 252. Okay. Timid Nature, of course. All right, then the Among Us. I always like to do this Among Us spread where I just put in enough investment like this, where I'm able to take and acrobatics, roaring moon, jolly nature, tera flying. Okay, so that's what I always calc for, and I'm gonna need the defense boost nature from that. Of course, 0 IVs and speed. Okay, then the Arcanine, I like going max HP and then adamant 76. This is just so that you get a little bit more attack boost to pick up the KOs on the Goldangles, especially if they're like bulky. And then from here, I just do this, you know, just 1 point in each of the bulks and then a lot of speed. You know, this way you also outspeed those modest Goldangles as an example, especially on their Tailwind. Not even without Tailwind, I should say. All right, so this is just a very fast and a little bit more of a harder hitting Arcanine. If you want a bulkier one where you can tank the Hydro Pump from a Iron Bundle, then I would just do something like this, where you have this much investment, and this will help you out in terms of like being able to take that hit from the Hydro Pump from the Iron Bundle. But in terms of like Tera stuff, like this should just be Tera Water. And then the Roaring Moon should be Tera Flying, of course. Florges will keep as is, but I think Tera Water is okay. If you want to do a little bit more damage, you can change it, of course. Bundle, Tera Ice, that's fine. This, Tera Grass, all right. We don't want to get spored by an opposing Amoonguss, but this is the idea. But I will change the Arcanine spread back to Adamant, you know, just because, and then just make it super fast. So this is just a relatively quick way of us trying to utilize Florges. And again, the whole idea here is we're relying a little bit with the Roaring Moon setup here with booster energy. We can boost it after we lead it with Florges. Not only have a speed boost, but also an attack boost. So that's the idea there. And then if you want, you could even give the Arcanine a berry and then give the Arcanine a life orb and then just do a bunch of damage with the Arcanine and then not have to use the safety goggles. But I think goggles is nice. You want to be like a little bit more consistent and not have to like fully rely on a niche thing. But yeah. And if you look carefully, you know, you can easily just swap this out for like Flutter Mane life orb, which is kind of what I was thinking about right there. But you know, this is another niche for Florges. So if you want to use something like this, here, quick team build session for you. All right. But yeah. That's going to be it for now. Let me know what you think of Florges. Let me know if you tried Florges yourself, if you tried either Symbiosis or Flower availability. And again, don't forget, we got coaching available on the channel. We got regionals coming up. Still 2 more left for Series 2, aka Regulation B. Some of you have already scheduled sessions for coaching for Regulation C, which is Series 3 with the Ruination Pokemon, which is good. So if that is something you're interested in, where we get to hash out EVs like this, one-on-one via Discord call, definitely consider that. And again, we have the link in the video description as well as the comment section. Every single video also has a join button where you can click it. It'll take you to our tier 3 sub link where you can join the channel. And then once you do, you message me on Discord and we coordinate and find a common time where we can meet and get that team that you need going. All right. But yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. Peace out and have a good one.